get set, go. It's time to hit the mark. This that show you need to know about. We set ourselves apart. Sports talk at the pinnacle. We got all the knowledge, covering every level, helping these young men get to college. Got the coverage of a DB, vision of a QB coming at you like a DN. Let all of that sink in. Working in the weight room, we can't take no days off. Doing drills when they not looking, that's what make us stand out. Don't worry about how much time is left, we got it planned out. Execution, elite footwork, nasty when we running routes. Accuracy off the chain, we've been on it from the start. Reaching for the sky, hitting the bullseye, we on the mark.
Marc Show, powered and sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. Every play I compete, each week live right here from the Fishbowl Radio Network. Listen, we got one of my guys in the coaching profession here in the state of Texas, Welton Johnson. Listen, he's a guy that's at the forefront of high school football. We're going to talk to him about his team at the middle school level over at Oak Cliff. Also, we got my guy Coach Jay on the road in the building. He's headed to Kansas State this weekend to watch the University of Houston in the Big 12 affair. Listen, we also got big games this week, but we're going to talk with my guy Coach Johnson about how he got started in the game. First of all, Coach Jay, what's up, man? How you doing out there?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me out.
Well, listen, man, how did you get started in the coaching profession? First of all, what I like to do with coaches, where you played at, collegiately, high school, how you got into coaching that led you up to where you are now.
Got you. Well, I was originally born in Dallas, but I grew up in Ashdown, Arkansas. That's where I played high school ball at. From there, I ended up going to Southeastern Oklahoma, played Division II football there for 4 years, both sides of the ball, got recruited as an athlete, played corner, return kicks. After that, I actually ended up taking an internship with Truth and working for Deion Sanders. That's how I ended up in the DFW area. I coached under him for 6-7 years, which was huge for me as a young coach coming up because I got to see the ins and outs and learn from arguably one of the best to ever play the game. So anytime you get a chance to be around guys like that and learn from them, it takes you to a different level on the coaching side because you get to see different things. From there, took my first coaching job at Newman working under Coach L.J. Miller. I was there 3 or 4 years, finished up as a head coach there, and now I'm at Oak Cliff.
Absolutely. Now, you guys had a chance to win a state championship over at Newman. You got some great players over there. Shout out to my guy Josh Rico, who was a quarterback on that team as well. Talk about your time in Newman and winning a state championship. What was that feeling like?
Man, it's a feeling like no other. Any high school coach or high school player, that's one of your ultimate goals while you're in the game. And the fact that in my first 5-6 years of coaching, I was able to win 2 of them. If I never won another one, I could still say that I won more state championships than most guys that ever coached this game at the high school level. So that alone was huge. But learning from those was probably the bigger thing because I took things that I learned during that first state championship season and it helped us in the next one. And now being at another school, being able to take that same blueprint, tweak it a little bit, looking to win a third one.
Absolutely, man. Shout out to my guy, Coach LJ. He's at SAGU right now. Keep in touch with him as well. Now, tell me about Oak Cliff. You got one of the top 8th grade programs, I would probably say, in the state of Texas. We're going to talk about a few of those guys on that team. But, talk about how you got things started this year. We were talking, you guys went down to Brock, had a pretty good game there, end up, coming out on top. But the rest of the season, you guys have been dominant, scoring 50, 60 points a game, haven't given up too many points defensively. Just talk about the game plan with these guys coming out, started summer practice to where you guys are now.
Gotcha. The thing with this middle school group is, and this is kind of one of those things when I talk about taking the blueprint from Newman, is starting with these kids at a young age. We run our middle school program the same way we do our high school program, from the summer weights and conditioning to the way the practice schedule set up in season weights. We have huddle, which most middle schools don't have, so there's no excuse not to watch film. There are times that, I'll make player decisions from week to week based on whether or not you watch film or how much film you watch. And that's something that a lot of parents, players don't get at the middle school level. But if the goal is to prepare them for high school, you gotta start it there. When these kids leave 7th, 8th grade, they should know what it's like to be in a high school program, what's going to be expected of them, the work ethic, the way they, and when I say the work ethic, a lot of people think it's just doing it. It's not just doing it. It's doing it a certain way. It's doing it with a certain intensity, a certain enthusiasm, and not just going through the motions. As you stated earlier, this team has been dominant this year, and I don't shy away from that because they worked for that. They knew that that was the goal this summer. We've stated this since day one of summer workouts, that our goal was to be dominant. If you ever been to a practice, a game, we break it out on dominate because that is our goal at the end of the day. I think the thing that helps this group out the most is the depth that we have. I think the best work that we get is in practice because it's ones versus ones. You have no choice but to get better in our practices. Most of our practices are probably harder than the games, and I make it that way intentionally. If our practice is harder than games, we get to games, and that's why it looks like we're on cruise control in games, but it's because I put these kids in these same game-like situations day in, day out, over and over and over.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you guys have been dominant. This is a team that went down to Houston and played one of the best middle schools in the Houston area in C.E. King, which feeds into C.E. King High School, which is one of the prominent high schools in the Houston area. That's a perennial playoff team. Talk about that a little bit. We were talking about that earlier, getting that together. Those guys got a chance to travel a little bit. Sometimes you don't get to do that in middle school. I think that's big, that those guys get a chance to see something. And then you put them in a position to succeed in a different environment, which you don't necessarily get to experience in middle school unless, you're playing FBU or on a select travel team.
Right. One of our biggest goals with that was to make them uncomfortable. Kind of like you just said, typically in middle school, your travel is 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour at max. For us to go down to Houston, to my knowledge, I hadn't seen a Dallas-Houston middle school game. You see it in high school, you see it in youth ball, but I hadn't seen anything to that magnitude in middle school. So going down there, they were going to be in a different atmosphere. If you've been around, the youth game, you know that Dallas versus Houston are always huge youth games. So to do that in middle school for the first time, they went down there feeling like it was a whole city against them, and they were representing all of Dallas and DFW. So that alone kind of put a chip on their shoulder going down there. Leading up to that game, I, talked about how great they were, and don't get me wrong, they were a very talented team. Probably the most talented middle school team that I've seen this year outside of ours. Other thing was we wanted to give our kids in middle school a playoff feel. So we did the charter bus. We got everybody together. It was actually on our fall break week, so it worked out perfect. We were able to get the kids there that morning, feed them breakfast, go through our walk through all of our pregame stuff, get on the charter bus and head down. Got down there, and the kids were in awe, because if you've ever been to C.E. King Stadium, it is a beautiful stadium, and for a group of middle school kids, if you hadn't been in a stadium like that, it's different in middle school. We got off the bus and we walked in the locker room, and I'm trying to keep everything as normal as possible. We were having our pregame talk and things like that, and the kids are just looking around, and I'm like, okay, you know what, let's just stop. We took a 10-minute break. I took the kids out to the field. I let them walk around, and I told them, take everything in. And then I brought them back up, and I just explained to them, at the end of the day, there's a 100-yard football field out here that's no different than any other field we've ever played on. It's the same size. We're going to play a 4-quarter game, and I just broke it down to them in the simplest terms of it may have a bigger magnitude, but nothing's different about the game. We're going to be who we are. The moments that we've worked for like this, they don't change with the competition. They don't. We are who we are no matter who we're playing. I don't care if you're 0-10 or 10-0. Our mentality is we're going to be who we are. And that's kind of been what I've preached to them all year about us playing us. If we control what we can control, I think this group can play with anybody. And that was kind of the mindset that we took when we went to C.E. King.
Absolutely. Now, Steph, you're a big proponent of preparing, kids when they're coming out of middle school. You work with, dozens of families coming out of middle school to get them ready for high school. Piggyback on that, what you try to deliver to parents and players about the preparation part as they try to head into from high school to middle school.
One thing that's important is parents listening to what Coach Johnson said. When you guys are looking at where your middle school is, where you want your kid to go to be prepared to play next level ball, there are always steps that you have to take, and I always talk about, planning ahead and understanding that you want to put your kid in the best position early to get them the groundwork to set the foundation from, playing with the best little league team to, choosing the right middle school, coaching staff, stuff like that. These guys are cutting edge when it comes to what they're doing for the youth athletics and the middle school football. If you want your kid to be in a great situation where they can go to middle school and be ready, a lot of kids get lost in the shuffle in that gap of middle school because the biggest thing is they don't do a lot of coaching in middle school. You hear that, you see it on Facebook every week. They're coaching at Life Oak Cliff, and you guys should check that out. But we talk about, how you prepare, the mindset, the way you work, the way you go about it, the same thing that he's, incorporating into his practices, into the kids' mindset. Those are the same things that I preach when I'm training kids, consulting, and making sure that they understand it's not just something that you just wake up and it organically happens on its own. You have to prepare, you got to plan, and you have to work at it consistently in order to give your kid a great opportunity later. You start early and you bank on what can happen later.
Absolutely. We talk about these things all the time. Development is key. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one thing that you're doing with this team is it's not just about the wins and losses, but to develop. You mentioned, getting them ready to get into an environment that's not an environment they're used to, getting them uncomfortable. How do you try to get that across to the parents as well? Because, the parents are the key to get the kids in that position. And They have a big influence on how these kids come out and play as well.
And I think that's one of the toughest things, to be honest. The on-the-field stuff for a coach, X's and O's, getting kids to play, that's easy. We can all do that. There's not many things that you run into on the field that you haven't experienced before as a coach. But off the field, that's the difference maker because especially at the middle school level, usually you've got a group of kids that, are coming to middle school, and some of them have never even changed classes before. They're used to all being in one class all day long, or at least being in the same hallway. So things that a lot of people don't take into account is how they behave, how they conduct themselves, the choices and decisions that they make on campus. Literally walking from one side of the campus to the other side of the campus, there could be a decision made in those 5 minutes that could cause that kid to lose their entire year. And the parents, they don't really get to see that part. They may hear about it, but until you see it, it's different. You imagine, for us, our school is K through 12. So it's not just middle school on campus. We've got high school kids on campus. So talking to the kids about how to handle different situations, how to conduct themselves, trying to truly get them to just go from point A to point B without stopping, talking. With a team this successful, there's, a couple things this year that this group has had to deal with that the average middle school kid doesn't. When I talk about the way our campus is set up, you got to think we've got some kids that look like they're in high school. And with them dominating on the field the way they are, some of these kids are, and I call them kids because they're 12, 13 years old, but they're being approached by high school girls. Like, how do you prepare this kid who just got out of 6th grade or maybe 7th, and they're dominating on the field, and they've got this girl that's, a sophomore or junior that doesn't know how old they are. They just know that you're one of the dudes on campus, right, and they're in your IG. They're approaching you on campus, but I need you to walk past this girl and get to class on time so you're not tardy or not being somewhere that you shouldn't be in ended up in a situation that you shouldn't be in. Those are the type of things that our kids get with our programs. We have those real conversations. I have them with the kids. I have them with the parents. I actually called a parent meeting this year literally in the middle of a season due to some situations that came up, and it wasn't anything negative, but I realized that some of the things that these kids were coming across, they weren't prepared for. I mean, outside of us in-house, I don't think anybody saw this team doing what they've done on this stage. I mean, we've scored, I think it's like 440, 450 points this year and given up none. And for a school that's never had an undefeated football team, these kids they look like celebrities on campus.
Right.
So most of the time you prepare for that in high school, maybe when you get to college, but they're getting that in middle school. So we have to have those conversations about what you post on social media, being where you're supposed to be, how you treat young ladies, how you talk to them, how to politely decline somebody. And even as adults, we know one of the hardest things is to say no to somebody.
Right.
I mean, even as a coach, I'm still working on that in certain aspects. So to teach a 12 or 13-year-old to say no to something that they think they really want, that's tough. But that's what our kids are getting at a very young age, and I think that's kind of what separates our program from most, that it's not just the wins and losses. You could take that away, and if you see everything else we're doing with the kids, you would know that our program is different. Our mandatory study hall, there's not many times that you'll see a coach sacrifice practice time to make all of his kids, passing or failing, go to study hall. And some people like it, some people don't. But for kids that have never been under the no pass, no play, it's different. Mm-hmm. And we can say what we want to in youth ball about, how important grades are and things like that. And it's not to take away from anybody, but there's nothing that holds you accountable from playing a kid that's failing maybe one class. Mm-hmm. But once you hit middle school ball, one class, two classes, it doesn't matter what it is. If you are failing a class, you don't play. And that was something I wanted our parents and kids to understand from day one, that I'm going to do my part. I'm going to give you every opportunity to make sure you're successful off the field, because most of these kids after high school, we know the percentage of kids that play college ball.
Absolutely.
And even the ones that go play in college, how many of them play after that? So
right.
One of my things all year has been, when football is gone, who are you? What are you without the game of football? Who are you as a person? And that's really what I've been trying to set them up for success for.
Well, definitely. And Steph, this is a harping point that you come out with, when you're talking to parents and players. You got to have that leverage, the academic leverage that you have to have. Coach Johnson, you're setting the precedent with that. That's something that's big, and it's something we talk about here probably week to week. But, Steph, just shed some light on that leverage academically that the players and parents have to have when they go into this.
Parents, whether it's parents from Life Oak Cliff or just parents that's tuning in, that's listening, share these moments, share this insight, because the mistake a lot of kids make, and you can look at it. Kids that are graduating, look at the amount of kids that go to JUCO, the amount of kids that don't have the opportunity to get the scholarships that they want because their GPA is not where they need it to be their senior year. That does not start freshman year. That mindset starts in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The development, the 5 Ps, poor prevention prevents poor performance. Proper prevention prevents poor performance. If you prepare these young men and ladies early enough to where they understand that freshman year, it is the most important year in high school. If you come out and you swing it and you knock it out of the park your freshman year, you can have great control over your destiny. So if you're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and you do not take advantage of having the right study habits, of understanding why your grades are so important, when you get to your freshman year, you think, oh, I have time. And you bomb it your freshman year. Now you don't have time because you're trying to dig your way out of a hole. That's why it's so important of being around coaches and staffs like Coach Johnson that are holding your kids accountable to make sure that they're helping them develop into student athletes?
Well, student athlete is the purpose. You have to be a student first, and I love what you're saying about the study halls. I don't, going to college, that was the first time I've been in a study hall. We didn't have study halls when I was in school, but, it was required by anybody in the football program. You mentioned Ashdown. I played with a guy in college that was from Ashdown. I went to Southern Arkansas University, Magnolia.
Okay.
So, that's why I kind of knew when you said Ashdown. I think his name was Fred Williams. You know what I'm saying? I remember Ashdown, Arkansas. Yep. We actually had one of my teammates on, Stevie Ray. Damn, I can't think of Stevie Ray's name right now. But he went to Southern Arkansas University. I have to connect you with them. He's over there in Mesquite, I believe, and he's doing some big things. But I have to connect him with you.
Definitely.
He's got some things going on. He trains and stuff. And, you being from Arkansas, I'm pretty sure you guys have been in the same circles.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I have to connect him with you. But I think that's big and something, Coach, we talk about all the time is the leverage of the academics. Because a lot of times, and this, been dealing with the recruiting piece, and we'll get to that in a little bit, academic money, when you talk about collegiate athletics, comes in hand in hand. I was just talking to a kid this week. You got to have that, man, because, when it comes to walking on, and we've talked about this before, you need to have that academic money. They will give you a preferred walk-on. That's what it kind of boils down to. The preferred walk-on, you have the grades that they can give you academic money and still be part of the program without giving an athletic scholarship.
And it's funny you
Marc,
bring it up.
Let me give an example.
Go ahead, Coach.
Of what you said. I got a call. Kid is a senior in high school in Louisiana. Has 3 offers, all from NAIA schools, and his GPA is a 2.5, and that is, from my understanding, cumulative. I'm waiting to hear back if that's the core, but whether it's a cumulative or core, that 2.5 will not get him academic money at an NAIA school to play football. So now he's at a crossroads where he's either going to have to figure out, do I want to go get loans to walk on at one of these schools, or do I want to go the JUCO route? So all of those things, or him being at the finish line his senior year, goes back to what he didn't do his freshman, sophomore, junior year, and that was take control of his leverage, which was his academics. Had he had a 3.0, it'd be a totally different conversation, because now it's how much money he's going to get. Now he probably won't get any money. If he does, it'll be very little. So his parents and himself will have to come out of pocket a lot. So now he's in a situation where he's wondering, does he even want to continue to play football because of the financial obligation? So parents, understand, if you don't take control of those things very, very early, it will come back to bite you in the end.
Go ahead, Coach.
I was going to say, bringing that up, that was actually my situation coming out of high school. At the Division II level, typically they do not give full rides. They take all their scholarships, break them up into partials, and that was my situation. I had a partial athletic scholarship, but lucky I had the grades that I also got an academic scholarship. So in the end, I ended up being there on a full ride because of the two, and I was actually getting money back in my pocket. So, it's one of those things where if you can play and you have the grades, even if you can't play at the D1 level, you can still manage to get a full ride. And honestly, you're more marketable to a D2 school with great grades than somebody that may be just a little bit better of an athlete than you, because they can get you more money. They can make their program more enticing by being able to package a full ride for you, where maybe a D2 can't for a kid that's a little bit more talented but barely has a GPA.
Right. Well, same situation. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I was saying that's what we talk about often when we talk about the leverage, and how your high GPA can get you money, put back in your pocket for going to school. We talk about this every single week as much as we can, and that's another example of the truth behind what we say. Thank you, Coach.
Well, absolutely. I ran into the kind of same situation as a high schooler. Southern Arkansas was, Division II at that particular time, or transitioning to Division II. They were NAID 1, but when I got there, they were transitioning to D2. So they packaged partial scholarships together. But listen, the talent level there was still on par with some of your bigger schools. So it doesn't mean that there's not talent at a smaller school. But like we say all the time, if you can play, and you have professional aspirations, they will find you. But go and break the school records at that D2. Be a D2 All-American. Be a D2 All-Star. All of those things come hand in hand when you talk about playing at the next level, which you're a 1%er when you make it to the pros.
Definitely. I played at the D2 level. Abilene Christian, who's now D1, they were D2 back at the time.
Right.
I played against Johnny Knox, who played for the Bears. He played at Abilene Christian.
No doubt.
A D2 school.
Yep.
I think that year they had 3 guys that went and played in the NFL because they had Bernard Scott, the running back that played for the Bengals.
Right.
Played against him on that same team. And they had a quarterback that spent a couple years in the NFL. So, as he just said, if you can play, your job is to get on the field somewhere.
Right.
They can't see you if you're not on the field. I don't care what level you're at.
Right. Listen, I remember Johnny Knox was a dog.
Man.
Speed, that twitch that you want to have at the receiver position. He spent some years with the Bears.
Yeah,
he was
he
a
could
dude.
go.
He could go.
And so he got hurt, he'd have still been playing.
Yeah, Scott was a dog too at the running back position.
Oh yeah,
spent some time up there in the Bengals, like you said. So definitely the thing that we try to tell these guys, parents, players, take advantage of your opportunities. Any opportunity is an opportunity. You spoke about the numbers. 7% make it to the next level. That includes JUCO, and I probably said this last week. JUCO, Power 5, FBS, whatever you want to call it, 7%. And you can think about all the high school kids that play in the nation when they get to be seniors.
Right.
The window gets smaller as you get up into the higher competition. So, any opportunity that you have to take advantage of those opportunities. Now, let's talk about some of these guys on this particular team. I know some of these guys, but I'll let you talk, about these guys. I think in the trenches it's different from middle school. Where you are right now at Life Oak Cliff, you got some of the best guys that will be coming into high school this next coming year. So talk about some of the guys on the team this year.
Gotcha. And I'll definitely start with our guys in the trenches. That was our O-line and D-line play was a difference for us from last year to this year. I think we've given up 3, maybe 4 sacks in 8 games, which compared to last year is a tremendous difference. Our left tackle, 8th grader, name's Cameron Beatty. He is an absolute dog. A lot of people don't know him because he really didn't play on the youth scene, but he's a kid that I would take and put up against pretty much any middle school lineman, and you can throw size out the window, and it's because he has that mentality. We've got a guard that looks like he should be playing high school. I think he's 6'1", 6'2", 250, 260 that can absolutely go. I've got a young kid, a 7th grader that actually starts on our 8th grade team at right tackle. Name's Marco. He played at SED, and he's one that I can't wait to get in high school. I wish he was going to be in high school next year. I mean, he's like that.
Right.
And one of the things about him is he's one of those kids that, because we were just talking about academics, he's a straight A student, honors classes, the whole 9. He's going to go play. We've got multiple guys that are, but he'll definitely go play college ball just because he has the grades to go with it. It's nothing to worry about there. I could go down the line guy by guy, but I legitimately think we have, between our 7th and 8th graders right now, 10, 11 linemen that I trust to play in high school in 2 years. And that's what's going to be big when you talk about not just winning games, but building a program. When you've got young kids that can contribute early, they have no choice but to get better with the experience. On the defensive side of the ball, kind of the same situation. We've got a couple of our O-linemen that go both ways, but with the depth that we have, we don't have to start kids on both sides of the ball. We've got a young defensive end who is another 7th grader that I wish was going to be in high school next year. His name's Jeremiah, but we call him Guap. He's another kid that you've probably heard about.
Absolutely.
In the youth game, but he has came in and absolutely wrecked shop on defense this year. And the thing about him is you can line him up at defensive end, you can drop him back and play linebacker, and he's done some of both for us this year just because we are so deep in the trenches. I mean, you don't shut out teams for 8 games without having guys in the box that can absolutely play.
Right.
And you can rush 3 guys and get pressure. You can do whatever you want on the back end.
Right.
You can bring different blitz packages. You can drop and pay multiple coverages. And that's kind of another one of those things that our guys get is we can do so many things with them at a young age because of their talent level.
Absolutely, man. Listen, shout out to my guy Guap. I am familiar with him as a seventh grader. He's a guy that's next level. When he hits the high school scene, it's going to come full circle. He's on his way. Now let's talk about the quarterback position. Cam is one of those guys that sticks out. You'll get to know him as well when they start to put on those high school pads and get on Friday nights. But just talk about his development. At the quarterback position, we had my guy Coach King on last week. The intangibles that he has, some of the intangibles that you don't see in a very young player. I think he's gifted with the arm talent, but I think from the neck up is where it separates him. He has all of the tools, athletic from the footwork, and his arm strength. But up top, I think is what kind of separates him from kids in his own grade.
Right. Definitely his IQ of the game. He has a super high IQ. And for me, that kind of goes back to the academic side. He's another AB honor roll kid that handles business in the classroom you don't have to worry about, and you can see that translate to the field. For us, if you've seen us play, we run a spread offense, we run a high school offense. Everything that we do translates. And I think for him, it starts in 7-on-7. A lot of people talk about how, 7-on-7 doesn't matter. That's not going to count when you put on pads. If you run a spread offense, if you can neutralize what a team can put in the box, it eventually turns into 7-on-7. And that's where you find out, can your quarterbacks read a defense? Do they know where to go with the ball? Do they know when to go there with the ball? There's a lot of times that I'll call things pre-snap. We line up and he sees something different and he knows that he has the freedom to change the play. Whether it works or doesn't work, he just has to be able to tell me why he changed the play after it's over. And I think the fact that he does have that freedom, it allows him not to be afraid to make mistakes. And when you've got a kid that can play freely, you get the best of them. But again, like I said, going back to his IQ from the game, I think he's one of the best his age at being able to read a defense and know where to go with the ball. He's thrown one interception this year, which actually came off a tip ball. So when you talk about something like that, we throw the ball 90% of the time. So when you're talking about one interception off of a tip ball, that tells you that you have a quarterback that knows where to go, and that's half the battle. I mean, if you got a kid that has, the arm talent but doesn't know where to go, it's not going to get you far. If you got a kid back there that's just an athlete, that's great, but what happens when they rush three and he's still got to be able to pick apart a defense? Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, your best bet is to blitz us and try and get to him before he gets the ball out, because I don't care if you play with 5, 6, 7, drop 8, if you let him sit in the pocket, he's going to tear you apart because he's that smart from the neck up.
Absolutely. And, I think that's the key. A lot of times, the way, at the youth level, it's always starting. We've talked about this before. In some coaching circles, it's okay for you to put the fastest guy and run sweeps here and there. But the development kind of goes out of the window when you do that. Definitely. But when you're starting at this young of an age and that part is already cerebrally there, the IQ's there, the vision's there, that allows you to open the playbook up more. Like you said, you can drop 8, you can run cover 4, cover 3, and he's still in zone. He still's going to be able to read those keys. And to piggyback on the 7-on-7 part, it's very important. Me traveling with 7-on-7 and Stephon doing his thing with 7-on-7, we've been doing it for a long time. We've seen kids take that next step in the off season with that and go to Friday nights. And for those positional guys, it's very key.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? You've been in the 7-on-7 circles as well. It's very key for those guys' development with the vision part of it and the muscle memory part. Right. Those things go hand in hand. No, it may not come if you at a school where you predominantly run the ball. Right. No, but in the passing game, it's elite. You know what I'm saying? And you can look at the collegiate level. The college quarterbacks, the Texas high school quarterbacks that have played 7-on-7 have gone to the collegiate level and been successful. You've seen it. You know what I mean?
You go look at a college practice. There's 7-on-7 in practice more times than not.
Right. Right. I mean, and that's the key to it. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of things that we talk about on a week-to-week basis here on the On Your Mark show. Of course, we got Coach Johnson in the building from Like Oak Cliff, one of the most talented eighth-grade teams that'll be heading to the high school level next year. So their recruiting piece is about to start off. We talked about off air the recruiting guy. Of course, my guy Stefan Johnson came with the blueprint, and you had a chance to kind of thumb through it a little bit. Just talk about some of the things, because you work hand in hand with these kids on the recruiting aspect and getting their, things together. You mentioned huddle and forming those things early from the exposure standpoint. But, the recruiting piece, just shed some light on it and, a little thoughts on the book so far.
Right. First thing I'll say, whether you're a coach, a parent, if you're involved with an athlete that's wanting to play at the next level, go get the book. And I say that after reading it for myself. It's exactly what it says. It's a blueprint. It is literally laid out with a step-by-step process from the time that they're in middle school all the way through high school. And not having a plan is where I think a lot of athletes and even parents get themselves in trouble because they wait to, their junior, senior year to start trying to get a kid recruited. It's too late. I mean, colleges are looking at these kids, honestly, as early as sixth grade. They're not reaching out, but they're knowing who some of the guys are. When they hit middle school, if they're not on social media, if they're not going to camps, if they're not promoting themselves at that age, that means when they get to high school, nobody knows who they are. Now they're trying to make an introduction that should have been made already. They should be looking to see, okay, I know who this kid is already. When he hits high school, I want to see how he does versus these caliber of guys versus, you just now being introduced. And now your junior and senior year, you're hoping that they're still looking to see how you're doing. But again, by then, for most, it's too late unless you're just like that.
Absolutely. And Steph, we talk about the exposure piece of that, building your portfolio, building your resume early, so that when you get to, you just spoke of a kid that's, going into his senior year and, he's got questions that he's running out of time, you know what I mean? And, starting early is better, but, you have been a prominent guy when it comes to building this thing. It's better to be great later than be great early.
Absolutely. And the early exposure, guys, is, when your kids are in middle school, whether it's, whatever the sport is, but we'll stick to football, is getting them and putting them in situations where they're playing outside of their normal box, where they're playing outside of their normal sandbox, whether it's you taking them out of town. You just want to see how they respond to adversity, whether it's under a different coach in the all-star game or, whatever it is. Even situations where you put them on an all-star team and they don't get to play at all. You want to be able to respond to that and teach them the value of working while they wait, because there is never a guarantee as you move up that you're going to be the guy. So you have to learn different tools to utilize later. So you build them, but you also allow them to fail so you can teach them through those moments, because when they get to college, that's when everything they did learn or did not learn is going to come to fruition. Can they study? Are they going to be on time? Are they going to be able to work while they wait? Not everybody's going to be a true freshman, walk in and start the first game. That very rarely happens, So as many things you could do early. And then you have now the social media piece, right? That does not mean, you have to post, nonsense every single day, but you have to keep your kids relevant on social media and learning how to post, learning what to post. There are a lot of kids now I see middle school and parents probably don't even realize they're posting guns, gang signs, things like that on their Instagram stories. And coaches will see that later because they're trained that it's okay to do it if I'm in middle school. Bad language in their highlights. I'm every day when I see a kid I know, especially kids from Flex Zone or kids that I train, I'm going off, hey, delete that,
remove it, you won't be recruited, period. So it's so many different things that as coaches we have to try to look out for, but as parents, you have to stay on top of your kid, because you'll look up later and say, well, why isn't he getting, what we think he should be getting? And then you go backwards. Those mistakes they'll never tell you, it's because of this, it's because of that. And the biggest thing is choosing the wrong school. If you choose the wrong school coming out of middle school and your son doesn't get to play until his junior year because they already have their guys, and the playing field ain't level everywhere. I'm sorry to say that. It's just not. So if you don't look at how your kid fits into the system of where they're going, those things matter as well. So it's so many different layers that you have to look at that's going to help your kid or hurt your kid later. And the earlier you can start identifying those things, the better for your kid later.
Absolutely. Now, you deal with, the recruiting process. You've dealt with it, at all of your stops. What are some of the things that you can tell the parents that are watching that college coaches look for intentionally in a player that they're recruiting? Because there's some things that they just don't know sometimes when they're coming into it. The NCAA really is come down with they're going to stop the pictures and the taking on the visits and stuff, which, to me, that's part of it, but it's not the substance part of it.
Right.
But you can speak to that a little bit.
A few of the things, and a lot of people don't like it, but it is what it is. One of the first things that stand out for a lot of kids are measurables. That's if I can look at you and you pass the eye test, and I'm speaking on, the recruiting piece again. If you pass the eye test, now you're going to at least get looked at. Then it's what did you put on film, or how did you perform at a camp? And then, obviously, what are your grades? Like, that's going to factor in no matter what. But for that kid that doesn't pass the eye test, that's where I think a lot of the parents and kids struggle with recruiting. When you don't pass that eye test, how do I get noticed? How do I get recruited? And one of the things that I always tell my kids and my parents, you have to do everything else better than everybody. The things that you can control. What are you doing better than everybody else? If I turn on the film, and when I say turn on the film, I'm not talking about your highlight. Anybody can put together, if you play and you make plays, you can put together a great highlight. College coaches don't care about your highlight, believe it or not. What they want to see is a full game film. When I turn on a full game film and I watch you for, let's just say, a quarter, what are you doing when the ball's not in your hands? What are you doing when you're not making a play? Are you jogging? Are you being lazy? Do you have bad body language? If a coach were to pop up at practice or be on campus and say, hey, pull out of practice, what does your kid look like in practice? Do they look the same as they do in the game, or are they going through the motions? If you don't have the measurables and everything else you do is not borderline perfect, there's not a great chance of you getting recruited. You can't take plays off and you're not, 6'4", 6'5", or you don't run a 4.3, 4.4 40 as a skill guy.
Right.
You just can't do it. Mm-hmm. Another one of the things I talk to the parents and the kids about all the time is, and we kind of just address it, what you post on social media. I won't even retweet a kid's highlight that plays for me if I go look at your social media and there's something on there that I've told you already not to have on there. And I have these conversations up front with the parents and the players, because when I retweet that, I'm signing off on it. I'm telling the college coach, hey, go check out this kid. But what happens when they go and they look at their highlight and they like it, and okay, so let me scroll down and see what else is on here, and they see stuff that shouldn't be on there, whether it's, things dealing with females that shouldn't be on there, language that shouldn't be used, guns, drugs, whatever. I also tell my kids, don't put music on highlights. I just tell them not to do it. Most coaches don't want to hear it anyway.
They're not going to listen to it. Right.
Nope. And if they just happen to have the volume on and the first thing they hear is a cuss word, they're turning it off and you are done. You just lost an opportunity that you had. So, I mean, I walk them through those type of things from day one, and I stick by that. If I wouldn't send out what you're posting, I won't retweet it, because I don't want to take an opportunity away from another kid, because once I tell a coach that this kid is that, if I'm wrong And I'm not just talking about on the field stuff, because they're going to make their own decision on that.
Absolutely.
But things that I knew character or behavior wise, I'm messing it up for the next kid. And that's not fair to that kid who possibly did everything right, and they're showing the effort and all the things that they need to see on film, but they don't get looked at because I promoted a kid that I shouldn't have. And again, a lot won't like that, but when you are being told what to do from day one, there's a reason.
Absolutely, and those are some of the things that we kind of touch base, from week to week about it, because you got to look at, these collegiate programs are like the NFL war rooms that you see on draft night. There's a position coach, there's the head coach, there's a recruiting coordinator, there's a strength and conditioning coach. They all sit in there, and when they cut your film on, listen. Also, when it comes to preparing the film, don't make it more than about 90 seconds.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And start off with your best plays, your best 5. Come out of the gate with that. I talk to kids about this all the time, through DM or they'll reach out, and they'll ask me to watch the film and look at it, give them feedback. I go to start writing things down, and I send them back, say, hey, you need to take play 3 off, play 4 off. Everybody can, not that everybody can score, but a 5-yard touchdown is just not fabulous unless you go and come back across the field and you're cutting through 3 guys, you make a explosive leap.
It's got to be special.
It's got to be special.
If I don't like you within the first 3 plays, I'm moving on.
Absolutely, man. Well, listen, Coach, we definitely appreciate you coming out. You know what I'm saying? This won't be the last time. Give out your social medias where everybody can follow Life Oak Cliff and what you guys are doing over there.
Hey, I definitely appreciate you having me out. School Twitter handle is at LSOC Football, and then my personal Twitter handle is at Coach Welton J.
Man, definitely. Steph, listen, man, be careful out there on the road, man. We'll get you back in the city next week, man. Definitely shout out to my guy Boogie Johnson, U of H, going up to Kansas State to make that big trip, another Big 12 contest, man. Follow Life Oak Cliff. Coach Johnson is doing some big things. You'll see him around. Big things over there, man. Absolutely, man. And shout out to the league. Follow the league.dfw, doing some big things over there as well. Man, every week right here on the On Your Mark Show, live from the Fishbowl Radio Network in Bedford, Texas, man. Follow us. Listen, go to fishbowlradio.com, man. Vote for the On Your Mark Show as your favorite show, me as your host. Listen, we're doing big things over here. Shout out to all of the other good shows. Tap in with Fishbowl, man. It's a lot of great shows running through the network, man. We'll be back next week right here from 11 to 12, live on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Shout out to my guy, Maynard Mike, as he takes us out.
Hey, ready, set, go. It's time to hit the mark. This that show you need to know about. We set ourselves apart. Sports talk at the pinnacle. We got all the knowledge, covering every level, helping these young men get to college. Got the coverage of a DB, vision of a QB coming at you like a DN. Let all of that sink in. Working in the weight room, we can't take no days off. Doing drills when they not looking, that's what make us stand out. Don't worry about how much time is left, we got it planned out. Execution, elite footwork, nasty when we running routes. Accuracy off the chain, we've been on it from the start. Reaching for the sky, hitting the bullseye, we on the mark.